I'm Allistair. I qualified as a state registered paramedic around the mid 1990s, where I joined what is now East of England Ambulance Service. It was Bedfordshire and Hertfordshire NHS Ambulance Trust at that time. I then worked as an operational paramedic for best part of 16 years. Had various roles in that time. Became a station officer after about 8 or 9 years. Taught paramedic students, and then latterly became an emergency care practitioner after completing a degree at the University of Hertfordshire. The last 4 years of my career I spent working as an emergency care practitioner, both in the community and in the acute NHS trust. So did some work in the minor injuries unit of the A&E department.
Hi, I'm Geri. I joined Bedfordshire and Hertfordshire Ambulance Service in 1999. I started my career as someone working in the patient transport side, and then after 18 months I took my upgrade exam to go onto the accident and emergency side. That was in 2000, and I progressed through the ambulance service as a technician, then a paramedic, and then I had a short period where I was a supervisor before becoming a manager for the rest of my career. I totaled 20 years, including my patient transport experience.
Alright, I remember when we were first crewed together, I think 2000? Round about
yeah,
then?
June 2000, I remember being crewed with you and being so excited to come to the ambulance station, and then drive into the ambulance station to meet you, and then you pulled out in front of me in your car. I had to slam the brakes on, and that was our first hello.
Yeah, that was sort of towards the end of my shift. I was desperate to get home.
Yeah.
Not looking at the traffic.
No.
So you were a brand new trainee, but you'd done patient transport for a year, 18 months before that.
It was good because we'd already kind of seen each other at the hospital and passing, so it was nice to sort of know who you were going to be crewed with. But it was a really scary time because it was a total change of what I'd done before. So it was almost like I used to follow you around like a bit of a sheep at the first because I didn't want to go anywhere or miss out on doing anything at the beginning.
Yeah, it was a good time. And I was learning. I think I'd been qualified as a paramedic about 3 years, and I'd had one trainee that I was mentoring before you, which I'd been with her for about 3 years, and then you arrived on the block. So
and it is like you spend so much time with your crewmate. You have to get that energy, that getting on with each other, and we did straight away. It was really good that we got on, because we were 4 shifts a week, 2 days, 2 nights. We were.
Yeah, we had just thinking about all the lifting and manual handling we had to do.
That was funny at the beginning.
And we didn't have any equipment to help us. There was no equipment.
Carry chair.
Early on, we had a carry chair, the stretcher.
Yeah.
Carry sheets with handles. We didn't even have slide sheets or pack slides.
No.
But
the canvases with the poles to get people out as well.
Yeah. And then probably a year or so after we started working together, the Manga Elks arrived on the ambulances, and we were given this fabulous piece of kit that was going to get everyone off the floor easily without
I remember
topping and tailing and whatever way we used to pick them off the floor.
I remember thinking though, it's another piece of kit I've got to carry in, because we had the big rucksack, and then it was like, well, you've got the rucksack on your back, you can carry it in, and then how useful it was. Yeah. And
it was the old compressor pump that was like a brick.
Yeah. That was in the back of the ambulance that you had to get out of the locker.
Hoping that the last crew that used it had put it back on charge.
Yeah. And the metal connectors that were on it that you had to push and pull at the same time to
twist them to release, and they were very old, but it helped. There was
definitely
lot of occasions we had to use the elk. I remember going to an elderly lady that had a stroke while she was in the bath, and the family couldn't get her out. The family hadn't realised she'd had a stroke. She just wasn't responding to them when they checked on her after, because she'd been in the bath for quite a while, and the water had gone cold, and she was sort of unresponsive to them. So they called an ambulance, and when we arrived, they'd taken the cold water out of the bath and sort of wrapped her in towels and put blankets over her to keep her warm. And we initially tried. I hadn't really thought about using the elk to get her out of the bath because it wasn't something that we'd done, and we hadn't been trained on using it for that. Yeah. But I remember we tried to get her out of the bath, but she was so slippery we couldn't get a grip of her. And my partner at the time, it was I wasn't working with you, but my partner at the time said, do you think we could use the elk? And so we took the feet out of it, stabilising bars, managed to slide it under her in the bath just by a bit of manipulation, started inflating it, and hey presto, we got her to the top of the bath and we were able to get her on the Ferno chair. And got her downstairs into the ambulance and off to hospital.
It was so good to be able to use it for that as well.
Yeah.
And all the other, countless places. I was trying to remember different places that I had used it, and it's probably, places that I haven't used it. I've used it on the motorway to lift someone up who decided to get out of his car and sit down at the side of the road, and to get him back up. To say you've used an elk on the M1, it was quite a thing at the time to come back and say that you'd used it, or you used it in Woodland, used it on a gravel drive, and some of the places that you've used it where we would have struggled to use the carry sheets or what we had before.
Yeah.
So
it's a good piece of kit.
Yeah, definitely. And thinking about what we had before and where we are now, at the end of my career, I remember having the camel on the manager's car and being able to go out and support the crew that had an elk with a camel if they needed it, for someone that didn't have that sitting balance. So really good piece of kit.
So we both had injuries through working in the ambulance service, back injuries. So I think yours is quite directly related by a specific job, isn't it?
Yeah, mine was carrying a carry chair down the stairs, if you remember, and it was a tiny set of stairs. I can remember it now, and the patient sat forward on the carry chair, and it took it out of my centre of gravity, and I felt my back go, but as we did, carried on, walked down the stairs, took him to the hospital, and then realised it was something worse. And then I think that was 5 years afterwards I ended up having the spinal surgery, L4, L5, S1. And I have to say, when I went back to work afterwards, I was the biggest advocate for using any bit of equipment, the elk, anything we had, to stop other people from injuring themselves. I know yours was...
Yeah, I guess it's, even though you were using the equipment meant for the job, it was the patient's unexpected movement that caused your injury. But I guess it made you be more aware about what you were doing and moving and handling and lifting people afterwards. Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah, mine was a bit different. So I've had lots of spinal surgery. One at the top of my spine, C6, C7, C7, C8, and then L4, L5, S1, same as yours. But through years of just lifting patients, you don't know, you can't see the inside of your body, so the spinal consultant said there was an element of disc degeneration in various points of my spine when I had an MRI, but the first surgery was a result of a head-on collision when I was responding to a job. So I'm driving on blue lights, and I came to a set of traffic lights in the middle of the night. It was about 2 o'clock in the morning, and an oncoming car came through a red light coming the other way, and hit me head on, didn't even have a chance to brake. So that exacerbated my sort of degenerating discs at the top of my spine, and I ended up having to have surgery, and I have a cage, bit bionic, so in my cervical spine. But a few years later, sort of most recently, just in the last 3 or 4 years, I started to develop lower back pain, had an MRI, and the degeneration in my lower spine had got worse, and I needed a discectomy at L4, L5, S1. No cage there, just discectomy and bone fusion. So, but it makes you acutely aware that, you know, you're not invincible and you do get injured.
And there are so many other people in the ambulance service that have got injuries, back injuries, because it's, even though, like we said, like you have the equipment, but sometimes just having to make that split decision when you're moving someone and you're moving them in an awkward position, you are just putting your back under that strain.
Yeah. And there's various times that you think, you know, you've gone into the job and you haven't taken a piece of equipment with you, and you look you look at the patient and you think, oh, they're not very big, they're not very heavy, and you think, oh, should we just pick them up manually? You know, and you're breaking every rule. You know you should be using the piece of kit, but when you've been through having surgery after an injury, you know, it does make you think, and you sort of toe the line and realise that you're not invincible, and you do get injured. So it's great having this equipment now that we can use to help get people off the floor and move people around.
And to protect yourself so you can actually stay in the job longer.
Yeah.